I stood there frozen as my fiancé's best friend called me a gold digger in front of everyone. The entire party went silent, but when I opened my mouth and revealed the truth about who I really was, his face went white. And my fiancé, he looked like he'd seen a ghost, because the secret I'd been keeping was about to destroy everything. If you've ever been underestimated or judged unfairly, you're going to want to see how this ends. Hit that like button and subscribe because this story takes a turn nobody saw coming. My name is Simone, and I need to tell you about the night my entire life exploded in the middle of a champagne-soaked party at a mansion that could have been pulled straight out of a movie. But before I get to that, you need to understand who I was walking into that room as, and who everyone thought I was. Because those two things, they couldn't have been more different. I'm a black woman, successful, educated, built my career from the ground up with nothing but student loans, sleepless nights, and a refusal to accept anything less than excellence. I worked my way through business school, climbed corporate ladders that weren't exactly designed for women who looked like me, and eventually started my own consulting firm. But here's the thing, nobody at that party knew any of that, and that was partially my fault. 2 years earlier, I'd met Sterling at a coffee shop. I know, it sounds like something out of a romance novel. He was charming, educated, came from old money, the kind of family that has portraits of their ancestors hanging in the hallway and summer homes they've owned for generations. We fell in love fast. He proposed 6 months ago, and I said yes because I genuinely believed he saw me. The real me. Not my bank account, not my company, not the empire I'd built, just me. But as the wedding got closer, I started noticing things. Small things at first. The way he'd change the subject when his friends asked what I did for work. How he'd introduce me as Simone without any of the details that usually come after someone's name. You know, like Simone who runs her own company or Simone who just closed a multi-million-dollar deal. Just Simone. Like I was an accessory. A pretty face on his arm. I told myself I was being paranoid, that he was just private about our relationship, that maybe he wanted to protect me from his world because it could be shallow and judgmental. And God, was I right about that last part. The party was supposed to be our engagement celebration, his family's estate, 3 hours outside the city, sprawling grounds, a guest list that read like a who's who of East Coast elite. I wore a black dress that cost more than most people's rent, had my hair done perfectly, and walked in on Sterling's arm feeling like maybe, just maybe, I belonged there. I didn't realize I was walking into an ambush. The first person I noticed was Donovan, Sterling's best friend since prep school. Tall, blonde, the kind of guy who'd never been told no in his entire life. He looked at me the way you'd look at a stain on an expensive carpet. Not angry, just displeased. Like my presence there was somehow offensive to his sensibilities. Then I saw her, Margot, Sterling's ex-girlfriend, and suddenly everything felt wrong. Why was she here? Sterling had told me they ended things years ago, that it was amicable, that there was nothing to worry about. But the way she smiled at me, sweet and poisonous at the same time, made my stomach drop. I squeezed Sterling's hand. He squeezed back. And for just a second, I thought maybe I was overthinking everything, that tonight would be fine. I had no idea I was about 60 minutes away from watching my entire world catch fire. Dinner was served on the terrace overlooking the gardens, and I should have known from the seating arrangement that I was being set up. Sterling sat at the head of the table, and I was placed directly across from Donovan with Margot just 2 seats down, close enough to watch. Close enough to hear everything. The first 20 minutes were fine. Polite conversation about the weather, someone's recent trip to the Hamptons, boring small talk that felt like a test I hadn't studied for. I smiled, nodded, sipped my wine, and tried to blend in. But then Donovan leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table in that casual way that men do when they're about to say something they think is clever. "So, Simone," he said, and the way he said my name made my skin crawl. "Sterling's been so secretive about you. What is it that you do exactly? For work, I mean." The table got quiet. Not silent, but that kind of quiet where everyone's still pretending to have their own conversations while actually listening to yours. I felt Sterling tense beside me, and I glanced at him, waiting for him to jump in, to tell his best friend what I did, to brag about me the way I'd bragged about him to my friends. He didn't. "I work in consulting," I said, keeping my voice steady. I'd learned a long time ago not to offer more information than people asked for. Let them show you who they are first. Donovan laughed. Actually laughed, like I'd told a joke. "Consulting," he repeated, glancing at Margot, who was watching this whole interaction with barely concealed amusement. "That's vague. What kind of consulting? Life coaching? Personal shopping?" My hands tightened around my fork. I could feel the anger building in my chest, hot and heavy, but I forced myself to breathe. "Corporate consulting," I said. "Organizational restructuring, financial advising, that sort of thing." "Ah," Donovan said, nodding like he understood, but his eyes told a different story. "So you're modest about it. I get it. Some people don't like to talk about their work. Or maybe—" He paused, took a sip of his wine and smiled. "Maybe there's just not that much to talk about." That's when I felt it, the first real crack in my composure. Because Sterling didn't defend me. He shifted in his seat, cleared his throat, and changed the subject to something about golf. Golf. Like what had just happened was nothing. Like his best friend hadn't just implied I was lying about having a career. I looked down at my plate and realized something that made my stomach turn. Sterling had never told them what I did. In 2 years of dating, 6 months of being engaged, he'd never once mentioned my company to his friends, to his family. He'd kept me separate, hidden, like I was something to be ashamed of. The betrayal hit me harder than Donovan's insults ever could. Margot chose that moment to join in, because of course she did. "You know," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness, "I think it's wonderful that Sterling is so open-minded. Not everyone would be comfortable dating someone from such a different background." Different background. The words hung in the air like smoke. She didn't say poor. She didn't say black. She didn't have to. Everyone at that table knew exactly what she meant. "Margot," Sterling said, finally finding his voice, but it was weak, half-hearted. "That's not—" "What?" she interrupted, eyes wide with fake innocence. "I'm giving a compliment. Sterling's always been so generous, so kind. It's one of the things I always loved about him." Loved. Present tense, pretending to be past tense. I wasn't stupid. The dinner continued, but I barely tasted my food. I watched Sterling avoid my eyes. I watched Donovan and Margot exchange looks across the table. I watched as his mother whispered something to her friend, both of them glancing at me. And I felt something inside me shift, harden. Because I'd spent 2 years believing Sterling loved me for who I was. But sitting there, watching him let his friends humiliate me, I realized the horrible truth. He'd never told them about my success because he didn't want them to know. He wanted them to see me as exactly what Donovan had called me, someone who didn't belong, and I was about to show all of them just how wrong they were. After dinner, everyone moved to the grand salon for drinks and dessert. That's when Donovan got bold. Or maybe it was the alcohol. Either way, he decided he wasn't done humiliating me yet. He stood up, champagne glass in hand, and called for everyone's attention. My heart dropped because I knew. I knew whatever was about to come out of his mouth was going to hurt. "I'd like to make a toast," he announced, and the room fell silent. 30 people, all eyes on him, then slowly sliding to me. To Sterling, my oldest friend, and his interesting choice of companion. Interesting. The word echoed in my head. Not beautiful, not intelligent, not accomplished. Interesting. Like I was a curiosity, an experiment. "Let's be real," Donovan continued, his voice getting louder, more confident. "We all know what this is. She's not here for love, she's here for the money. That's what women like her do, right? Find a wealthy man and— Donovan. Sterling's voice cut through, but it was weak, embarrassed. He wasn't defending me. He was trying to save face. Come on, Sterling, Donovan pushed. Everyone's thinking it. I'm just saying it. She's a gold digger, a gold-digging opportunist who saw an easy mark and— I stood up. My chair scraped against the marble floor, and the sound cut through his words like a knife. The entire room went completely, utterly silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Every eye was on me now, and I felt something inside me snap, not break, snap, like a rubber band that had been stretched too far, too long. You want to know what I do, Donovan? My voice was calm, ice cold, steady. I'm the CEO of Blackwell Consulting Group. I watched his face, watched the smugness start to falter just a little. A few people in the room shifted uncomfortably. Some of them knew the name. I could see it in their eyes. We're the third largest corporate consulting firm on the East Coast, I continued, taking a step toward him. Last year's revenue? $280 million. But here's what's really interesting, Donovan. I paused, let the word interesting hang there like poison. You work for Morrison and Drake, don't you? His face changed. The color drained from his cheeks. The company that's been losing money for 2 years straight? The one that's been on the verge of bankruptcy? I smiled, but there was nothing warm about it. 3 days ago, my company finalized the acquisition. I own Morrison and Drake now, which means, Donovan, I own your job. And as of this moment, you're fired. The room exploded, gasps. Someone dropped their glass. Donovan's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. But I wasn't done. Not even close. I turned to Sterling, and I saw it in his eyes. Fear. He knew what was coming. And since we're being honest in front of everyone, I said, pulling out my phone, let's talk about you and Margot. Simone, don't— Sterling reached for me, but I stepped back. These are text messages, I said, holding up my phone so people nearby could see. From Sterling to Margot. From 3 days ago. I started reading. I can't keep doing this. She's getting suspicious. And here's Margot's response. Just hold on until after the wedding. Then we'll figure out the Simone situation. Margot's face went white. Sterling lunged for my phone, but I was faster. There's more, I said, scrolling. How about this one? Once we're married and I have access to everything, we can finally be together. She'll never see it coming. The room erupted. Sterling's mother screamed. Someone started crying. Margot jumped up from her seat, her face twisted with panic and rage. You're lying, she shrieked, coming at me. You're making this up because you're jealous and insecure and— The slap echoed through the entire room. My hand met her face with enough force that her head snapped to the side, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. Then chaos. Pure, beautiful chaos. People were shouting, phones were out recording, Sterling was yelling my name, and Donovan had dropped to his knees, actually begging me not to fire him. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I looked at Donovan, still on his knees, tears actually streaming down his face, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pity, just cold, clear certainty. You spent the entire night trying to humiliate me because of what you assumed about me, because of my race, because you thought I was beneath you. Now you get to face the consequences of your prejudice. Security will escort you out. You have until Monday to clean out your desk. He grabbed at my dress, actually grabbed it, begging. Please, Simone, please. I have a mortgage. I have bills. I didn't mean— You meant every word, I cut him off. You just didn't expect me to have the power to do anything about it. 2 security guards pulled him away, and I turned to face the room. 30 people who'd spent the evening looking down on me, judging me, whispering about me. Now they couldn't meet my eyes. But I saved the best for last. Sterling, I said, and he froze. He looked terrified, and he should have been. Tell them. Tell everyone here the real reason you proposed to me. Simone, baby, please. Tell them. My voice cracked through the room like thunder. He broke, right there in front of his family, his friends, everyone. His shoulders sagged and words started tumbling out like a dam had burst. "I knew about her money," he said, and the room went silent again. "I knew about her company. I've known for over a year. I looked her up after our third date and I saw everything. The Forbes profile, the business articles, everything." His mother made a sound like she'd been punched. "Margot and we never really ended things," he continued, unable to stop now. "We kept seeing each other, and when I found out how much Simone was worth, we made a plan. I'd marry her, wait the minimum time to avoid the prenup looking suspicious, then divorce her and take half. Margot and I would split it. I'd suspected for months, but hearing him say it out loud, admitting that our entire relationship was a con, that he'd looked at me and seen nothing but a meal ticket, it hurt in a way I hadn't prepared for. Margot tried to run for the door, but Sterling's father blocked her path, his face purple with rage, not at what they'd done to me, but at the embarrassment they'd brought to his family name. "There's one more thing you should all know," I said, my voice steady despite the pain radiating through my chest. "This estate, this beautiful property that's been in your family for 3 generations, Sterling, it has a $4 million lien on it. Your family was going to lose it to the bank in 6 weeks." Sterling's mother gasped. His father's face went from purple to white. "Who do you think bought that debt 6 months ago?" I let the question hang there. "Me. I own the paper on this house. I could foreclose tomorrow if I wanted to." The room exploded again, but this time it was Sterling's own family turning on him. His mother was screaming about how he'd ruined them. His father looked like he might actually have a heart attack, and Sterling just stood there, broken, watching everything fall apart. I didn't stay to watch. I walked out of that mansion with my head high, got in my car, and drove away. 3 months later, the karma was even sweeter than I'd imagined. Donovan was blacklisted from every major firm on the East Coast. Last I heard, he was working retail at a mall, barely making rent. Sterling had declared bankruptcy. His family disowned him, cut him off completely. And Margot? The social circles she'd spent her whole life infiltrating wanted nothing to do with a woman exposed as a serial mistress and gold digger. The irony wasn't lost on me. As for the estate, I didn't foreclose. Instead, I converted it into a community center for underprivileged youth. Free tutoring, career counseling, business mentorship, everything I wish I'd had growing up. And Sterling had to walk past it every single day on his way to his new job, at a coffee shop that I owned. Karma isn't just about revenge. Sometimes it's about building something beautiful from the ashes of what tried to destroy you. A year has passed since that night, and I'm sitting in my corner office on the 42nd floor, looking out at the city skyline. My company has expanded into 3 new markets. We're on track to break $350 million this year. Forbes didn't just mention me, they put me on the cover. "The Woman Who Turned Betrayal into an Empire," the headline read. Dramatic, but not entirely wrong. I'd be lying if I said the months after that party were easy. They weren't. Some nights I'd wake up at 3 a.m, replaying Sterling's confession in my head, wondering how I'd missed the signs, wondering if something was wrong with me, that I'd fallen for someone who saw me as nothing more than a bank account with a pulse. I went to therapy. I cried more than I want to admit. I questioned everything about myself. But then something shifted. I realized that his betrayal said nothing about my worth and everything about his character. I hadn't been naive for trusting him. He'd been calculating for exploiting that trust. And there's a difference. I started dating again about 6 months ago. Nothing serious yet, but I met someone, a professor at the university, someone who lights up when I talk about business strategy and never once asked how much money I make, someone who introduces me to his friends as Simone, who's brilliant and kind and makes me laugh. Not Simone the CEO, not Simone who's successful, just me, the way it should have been all along. Last month I attended a charity gala for youth education. I almost didn't go. These events can be exhausting, all small talk and performative philanthropy. But this one mattered because it benefited the community center I'd built, the one that used to be Sterling's family estate, and that's where I saw him. He was serving drinks, not as a guest, as staff, wearing a white shirt and black vest, carrying a tray of champagne glasses through the crowd. For a moment, our eyes met across the room, and I saw everything in his face. Shame, regret, the weight of consequences he'd never imagined he'd have to carry. I could have ignored him, could have walked away, but something made me approach him instead. "Simone," he said quietly, and I was surprised to hear genuine remorse in his voice, not the desperate, panicked regret from that night, but something deeper, earned through suffering. "Sterling, He looked down at the tray in his hands. "I know an apology doesn't mean anything. I know I destroyed what we had, and I destroyed myself in the process, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. Not because I lost everything, but because I hurt you. You deserved so much better than what I gave you." I studied his face. He looked older, tired, but there was something genuine there now, something that had been missing before. Humility, growth, the kind that only comes from hitting rock bottom and having to claw your way back up. "I forgive you," I said, and I meant it. Not for you, but for me. Because holding on to that anger was like drinking poison and expecting you to die. I needed to let it go so I could move forward. He nodded, tears in his eyes. "Thank you. And for what it's worth, what you did with the estate, the community center, it's incredible. You changed lives. You changed mine, just not in the way I expected." "Take care of yourself, Sterling," I said, and I walked away. Not with anger, not with satisfaction, just with peace. Because that's what real closure looks like. It's not about watching someone suffer. It's about releasing the hold they have on your heart and choosing yourself. If this story moved you, if you've ever been underestimated or betrayed by someone you trusted, hit that subscribe button right now, because I share real stories about people who refuse to stay broken. Drop a like if you believe in karma and comment below. Have you ever been judged unfairly and proved everyone wrong? I read every single comment, and your story might be the next one I tell. Here's what I learned from all of this. Never dim your light for people who can't handle your shine. The moment someone makes you feel like you're too much or not enough, that's the universe telling you they're not your people. And sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't destruction. It's building something so beautiful from the ashes that everyone who doubted you can't help but watch you rise. Your worth isn't determined by who validates you. It's determined by who you are when no one's watching. It's measured by how you treat people, how you handle adversity, and whether you choose bitterness or growth when life breaks your heart. Those who underestimate you are simply announcing their own limitations. They're telling you more about themselves than they ever could about you. So protect your peace. Guard your energy. Surround yourself with people who celebrate your success instead of resenting it. And remember that the right people will never make you choose between being loved and being powerful. You can be both. You deserve both. Thank you for being here with me through this story. Thank you for listening, for caring, for believing that people who do wrong eventually face their karma. See you in the next one. Stay strong, stay true, and never apologize for being exactly who you are.